Welcome to today's video. Today I will share with you the 2 pointers that you need in order to silence your mind, come into a place of thoughtless presence, awareness of being. Here, all concepts dissolve, and this is the doorway to truth, to understanding the way things are, to wisdom. So watch the whole talk. I'm going to give you a little bit of a background as to why these pointers will work. And then we're going to get into the actual practice of the pointers. And then at the end of the video, to go deeper into the pointers, I have 2 mini courses on each one of the pointers that you have access to. So I'll let you know at the end of the video how to access those mini courses, okay? So enjoy the video. The teaching is so vast and we talk about so many things in so many different ways and angles, but like when it comes down to the application, when it comes down to practice, it only comes down to awareness of sensation and awareness of awareness. Because all these talks, all the lectures, all our discussions, questions and answering, it's only on the conceptual level. But in order to apply all of those vast and subtle concepts, it only comes down to awareness of sensation, awareness of awareness. If you understand that so deeply, then everything will start becoming simpler for you. Because as long as our spiritual practice is only on the level of these discussions, it will always seem out of my reach and so subtle and so abstract. But if you start to acknowledge that in practice, it only looks like awareness of sensation, awareness of awareness, because those are the only 2 things that bring you out of the conceptual world, bring you out of the conceptual seeing. That is the only way to apply all of these things. From just those 2 things, you will learn to apply everything else. You know, we spoke about that like 3 calls ago, how we went over all the different aspects of spiritual practice and what you have to do. And I shared in that talk that like, if you don't have this foundation of awareness of sensation, awareness of awareness, then all of those different things will be like, you'll think to yourself, how can I possibly practice all of that while also juggling personal life? There's no way. There's too many things to do. However, if you have this foundation, you will find yourself naturally being in alignment and practicing all those things, not even through making an individual effort to practice each one of those things, but just like a holistic way of being, which is in alignment with all those things. So that's what I want to emphasize the importance of today. Leading your practice from silence, or leading your life from silence, and what I mean by silence is the absence of concepts, aka awareness of sensation, awareness of awareness, which quote unquote brings you there. So if we look at our experience for the purpose of this conversation, you can break it down into three layers. Okay. If you look outside, if you look inside the realm of the senses, which is the world as you perceive it, it's what we call the physical existence. It's the room that you're sitting in right now. It's the body that you are seeing right now. It's the sounds and the textures and the objects that you see. Things we call physical material existence. Then you move on to a subtler, and try to see what I mean by subtler. It is less dense. It is less tangible. Yet it is still an object of your seeing. It is still something you know of. This is the mental or subtle existence. Sensations, thoughts, emotions, feelings, you know. Please acknowledge how these things are invisible. They're not actual tangible objects in the traditional sense of the word. Even them being invisible, you know them. They're not in the realm of your senses. They're not being grasped by the senses. The senses are not aware, say, of thoughts or of sensation, of feeling. yet you say you know them. So notice that you are not just a body perceiving what you call the outside world outside of you. There you are in a subtler position from which you know both the world and the mind, the layer of mind. You are not a body which has an outside which you call the world and an inside which you call mind and awareness. No, that is the incorrect paradigm. That is the incorrect view. Whatever you are aware of both the subtle layer of existence, mind, self-image, thought, and what you may call that an extension of that, which is the tangible physical existence. In this case, there's no inner and outer, right? There's no inside the body or outside the body. In this case, both the mental layer and the physical layer are in a way outside, you can say, because they are something you know, or you can say they're both inside because they're within your knowing. Anything that is out of your knowing doesn't exist for you. So both all that you know here is within your knowing. So you can take whichever approach you like, which is comfortable for you for that. Either everything is externalized, meaning everything is outside at a distance, you are aware of it, or you can say everything is within your knowing. So what awareness of the like our 2 pointers, awareness of sensation, awareness of awareness, help us to acknowledge is our subtler position from where we know. We can, you can call this anything, like just for name purpose, but it's good to understand that like naming it is limiting it and we don't need to name it. Right now, for the conversation purpose, we can say awareness or being or presence or whatever, but you don't need to name that at all. Let that be a mystery, The fact is, you are that because you are that which knows. But you don't need to constantly create a concept out of that, because then the moment you try to do so, once again, you are back in the conceptual layer of existence and you have lost it. This is almost like in meditation when you're really becoming truly silent and maybe there's a total absence of thought, and then once again maybe you get excited or you want to hold on to it, but the moment you try to do so, you once again become an individual and you come onto the level of concepts and you've lost it. The moment you try to conceive of that, meaning the moment you try to create a concept out of that or hold on to that, you're going to lose it. It's no longer that. And you're once again identified with an object. So it's good to acknowledge that concept or concepts are not the proper instrument through which you have to seek that. You cannot seek yourself through concepts. Otherwise, you will always just remain identified at the level of concepts and unable to perceive something subtler. This itself is so important because this right here just shows you how thoughts have no meaning in your practice. In moments of practice, you have to let go of all thoughts. You have to diminish your attachment to any concept. Even your really spiritual, intellectual questions have no meaning in practice because they're all on this layer of existence. But you don't exist. You are, right? We talked about on the last call how anything that has existence has no being. Anything that has existence momentarily borrows its existence from being. It comes and goes. It appears and disappears. It has no being. It has no reality. It has no truth. It is mere appearance, mere dream. It never was. Right now, our whole idea of ourself, who I take myself to be, is only in this existence, mental and physical. I take myself to be a number of these things, a compilation of these things. But this has no reality. We are trying to discover that which I am prior to existence. So, firstly, the awareness of sensation practice. Notice how the the pointer asks you to observe without judgment, observe without description. Because you see, judgment and description are here. As long as you see things through your idea about them, whether it's emotions, whether it's physical objects, whether it's people, whatever it is, as long as you see, or just to keep it simple for this conversation, the sensations of the body. As long as you see the sensations of the body through your description about them, you will continue to filter that seeing through thoughts, through concepts. Here's where I'll make the distinction that the arising of these thoughts, feelings, sensations is not conceptual. The arising of them is quite actual. However, with thoughts, the content of those thoughts, right? The arising of the thought itself is actual. It is fact. But the content of the thought, which is the idea that it proposes, is conceptual. Try to see what I mean by that. The arising of a thought is factual. What it says is conceptual. The arising of this thought, which says the word car, right? The arising of the thought is factual. The word car is a concept. The arising of this thought that says the word person, the arising of that thought, the thought itself is actual, but the content of it, person, is an idea, a concept. So the arising of all thought is actual, factual, meaning it has momentary existence, but the content of it, no matter what it says, right now it's talking about spiritual teaching. Later it was going to talk about what am I having for dinner. Later it will talk about I don't like this. Later it will say I want this. I'm not happy, this, then that. The content is all conceptual. And when we are constantly describing, judging, you are filtering your entire experience through those conceptual filters, through those concepts. The entire culmination of those concepts you can call your belief system or paradigm, your self-image. When we come to the spiritual practice, the reason we struggle so much is because our entire existence, our entire idea of ourselves, understanding of ourselves is comprised only of those concepts. That is all we know ourselves to be, and that is all we really know in general, like to even life to be. That's what we take life to be. And we have such a great sense of investment in that. And that is why even when you are encountering the meditation practice in the beginning, there's so much resistance to it, because it's like the meditation practice is helping you see the transparent, it's like reducing the denseness, the seeming reality, the solidity of your paradigm, of your whole idea of yourself. It's the meditation practice, it starts to dissolve the reality of it. So like it's almost like fire touching water. It's going to run away from water, you know. So with the awareness of sensation practice, you are learning to turn away from description, bringing your attention away from description and just seeing sensation for what it is, a momentary phenomena. You're learning to perceive without your entire conceptual paradigm. In the beginning, this is very, very difficult and it doesn't even feel valuable. But you start to see that as you start to just observe without judgment, observe without concept, firstly, the things you previously were running away from, you see that you don't need to run away from this feeling or that thing and that thing, that you can just perceive them. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to resist. Even the feeling of resistance, you can just observe. You start to see that awareness runs away from nothing. It shines equally on everything. Automatically, so much of that inner struggle that was within you, that restlessness to constantly avoid something, starts to diminish. But not only that, you start to discover a subtler seeing, a subtler place of being from where you already are seeing, knowing, being. You see, when we live in our conceptual reality, fed through constant psychological chatter, we live in a self image. We filter everything through our idea of ourself. Our whole thing is conceptual, and our idea of ourself is very dense and tangible, right? It only exists here. I'm just a bundle of thoughts, sensations, and, body sensations. So our understanding of ourself is very shallow on the surface. Of course, on behalf of this shallow self image, I want a bunch of things and I don't want a bunch of things. I'm stuck in the movie. I'm totally stuck in the illusory world, and I give it so much importance. As you begin to practice the awareness of sensation pointer, you start to comprehend a whole vaster depth to what you are beyond just the surface of body and thoughts, beyond just the surface of self-image. You start to see the illusory nature of the self-image. You start to see that, call it at least in your essence, here, in your at a more core truth level, you are not the mind and body. You see and you are in a subtler position than the transient experience of the mind, the transient experience of the body. This is big. Okay. So that's why I say, if you have just started this practice, take it seriously. You won't see the value of it in the beginning, but it will entirely change everything about you and your life if you stay consistent and if you keep it simple. You can have a hard time with it. That's fine. That's going to happen because everything you have been taught has been the opposite of this. But you have to keep it simple and you have to stay consistent, because that takes care of the rest. Because automatically, just through keeping it simple and consistent, you will start to have glimpses of from where you are truly seeing. And you will start to see how that place, or my place of being and seeing, awareness, is not conceptual. It is not a thought-made thing. It is unquestionably factual. It is what is true in every moment. In every moment, the layer of the physical existence and mental existence continues to change. There's no stability here, but the accompanying that change is always this changeless beingness, awareness, aliveness, which is present here. So, in other words, awareness of sensation helps you acknowledge your seat, your true position prior to self image. In the meantime, it just cleanses the constant impurities that lie in these layers. Why? Because all the impurities that are here are on behalf of your self image. All of the dysfunction and suffering and that restlessness is on behalf of your limited idea of yourself, the contracted understanding of ourself. So as we begin to become established in a truer understanding of ourself prior to concept, many of the impurities that were only operating because of personal identity, they start to go. And this is what you may experience as you meditate, like a certain lightheartedness, a certain relief and ease, a flow, a contentment, a certain happiness, regardless of circumstance. There's like a whole burden being cleared away. Maybe the people in your life do not see the transformation that is taking place, but you see as you continue with your practice that you are like so much has been let go of that was previously bought into. You may still have the same job and you may still be doing the same things, but now you do those same things in such a different manner because they're no longer so many impurities from where you're operating, because through this practice they become objectified and they wither away because they need personal identity in order to thrive. But as you start seeing the transparency of the personal identity and start to become more established in a truer understanding of yourself, how can they remain? This is why in moments of difficulty, in moments of confusion, whatever, like you're being asked to turn away from thought or doubt. Even like when you're practicing and the voice arises, am I doing this right? Or how do I, like, oh, this didn't go well in the past and this and that. Like that voice is only this. It is not you. It is not yours. It is nobody's. Don't be like, oh, whose is it then? That's just a silly question. It's nobody's. It's just the thought arises as, yeah, it claims your beingness. It claims this is what I am. But you have to start to see. You see the voice. You see the thought coming and going. Know your true position as just the seeing. You are that which sees. You do not speak, you do not think, you do not do any, like you're not capable of any of those things. Those only happen on the level of experience. The thinking is seen. The doing is seen. In the moment, like, of course, when you're actually in the world of action and doing stuff, you don't have to constantly try to maintain that view, but you have to see that so clearly in moments of practice when you're not doing and whatever. You have to renounce all this stuff in moments of practice. If you keep believing in this thought, oh, am I doing this right? You will continue to remain stuck at the level of concepts, you see? Then how can you go subtler? If you continue to believe in and identify with and pursue the doubts that arise in moments of practice, of course, like they seem so valid and legit and they need to be addressed. But do you see how, like, by buying into them, you stay stuck in the conceptual layer? And even like, that's why I say, like, these types of questions, sometimes when they're addressed and answered, they will still just create more questions. Thoughts only know how to create more thoughts. On the level of concepts, you will only keep creating more concepts. The mind is just a concept manufacturer. And it will keep you in self-image. It will keep you in a limited seeing. It will keep you in a very contracted way of being. There's a great investment in your thinking. There's a great investment in your interpreting and controlling and this and that. And that perhaps is the greatest challenge to this practice. The degree of interest you have in thinking, the degree of belief you have in thinking as me and mine. If there's like one thing you take away from these conversations and your entire time here in the program is exactly this. You have to lose interest in this psychological chatter. You have to let go of this self-talk. You can't talk yourself into this understanding. You can't think yourself into this understanding. I get the question very often like, oh, is this a suppression of thoughts? Once again, this is just, you see how cunning the mind is in its capacity to bring you once again into belief in concepts. I share the quote all the time by Maharaj, right? He said, that which argues for the mind's survival is the mind. You have to be alert enough to catch it and cut it off in that very moment. So that is why in moments of practice, you turn away from all concepts, all thinking, all interpreting, all judging entirely. And you just see things for what they are, meaning like at least for the awareness of sensation practice, right? We practice on the level of our body because this is where our bondage is. This is where, our entire restlessness and suffering is. So you learn to observe the sensations. And only when you're able to like observe these sensations when they're sort of neutral and not fluctuating, only then will you be able to really observe them when there's great anger or fear or anxiety, So that is a practice. You don't have to be perfect at it, but it is a practice. You have to learn to rewire the whole thinking to just seeing. And this is one of the main things about meditation. You are acknowledging that I am not seeing the world. I'm not seeing my experience from this chatter. The mind is not aware. The mind talks about experience, but even this talking, I am aware of. Let go of saying, I am thinking. That is an incorrect statement. I am aware of thought happening. That is more accurate. And I'm not just saying in terms of conversation, you have to say it like this. I don't care about that. When we're talking, you can say, oh, I was thinking this and that. We're not trying to become non-dual robots and having to comply with that language format. I'm just saying in moments of practice, see it in that way. So awareness of sensation helps you become seated in your true position, helps you acknowledge that the only thing you are capable of, quote unquote, doing is being aware and being, actually, just being. Your isness and your awareness is not being efforted. And that for your being, for you, the awareness that is, anything that has momentary existence right now is not a problem. Just like the sun that shines equally on everything, just like this sun, this awareness, this light shines on everything that has momentary existence equally. It is a place of non-resistance. It is a place of non-conceptual being. It is a place of desireless, fearless, personless being. In this light, dissolve the person. And that's exactly what happens when you turn away from thoughts. In that moment, there's no person. in that moment, you are not alive and aware as a person. That filter that you put on your aliveness dissolves. Your whole conditioning dissolves. Maybe once you get excited about this experience and you try to grab a hold of it, you arise as an individual trying to conceive that which you just experienced. But that which you just experienced wasn't an experience as per se. It was a being, what you are, that knows the coming and going experience. So as you become more and more settled in mere awareness of sensation, like in just mere awareness of sensation, you will even lose the feeling of I am doing this practice or I am being aware of sensation. In awareness of sensation, you will lose all sense of individuality, me and other, me and world, all sense of separation. But the moment you try to grab a hold of it or think about it, once again, you become an individual. You see, this is a very important point to acknowledge in meditation. And you will notice this many times. So if that happens, that's fine, but just return to the pointer. The pointer will never fail you. These concepts may fail you because some of them are understood properly, some of them are not, some of them are click, some of them don't. But the pointer will never fail you. The pointer is like absolutely foolproof. So just a few more things and then we'll get into any question you have about this. The awareness of awareness pointer works the same way, just a different path, call it. And it is a little subtler, but it doesn't mean that it's necessarily like better or more advanced or anything like that. It's just two different paths to the same dissolution of personhood. In awareness of awareness, you don't only turn away from thoughts, from concepts, you also turn away from anything that is known, meaning like nothing that is known, even the raw sensation is important to you. You turn your gaze even from even from sensation. And you just revel in the light of your own being, the beingness of your own being, the awareness of your awareness. Notice how I said recently, and I constantly say this all the time, that to be aware of awareness is the same is the same thing as to be the awareness that is knowing. You acknowledge how like those statements are very different, but they're the same thing. We can say for instruction purposes, be aware of awareness. And we think that like, okay, I am being aware of an object, right? There's a separation there. But actually to be aware of awareness is to be the awareness that knows. As we talked on last Tuesday's call, you are not a person that has awareness. You, that which is aware of experience right now, you are that which is aware, that nameless, that formless, in which the person you take yourself to be has momentary existence, is appearing. This is perhaps one of the first shifts in paradigm in self-inquiry, where previously the I that I'm constantly referring to is just my idea of myself, the person that I take myself to be, the body and mind. And I take awareness to be a possession that I have. It's like it's mixed with my thinking and whatnot, you know. But you start to see it in this way. Physical, mental, even subtler than mental, is the awareness from where you know everything. That is why in meditation, anytime you come across an obstacle, a seeming obstacle, the moment you acknowledge the awareness of it, being prior to it and not being stuck, then the obstacle dissolves. To acknowledge that awareness is the same as being the awareness which you are acknowledging. For the first time in your life, you're not actually just seeing an object. You are being knowingly, you're knowingly being the subject. And in that awareness of awareness, there's no idea of yourself. There's no person. There's no belief. There's no thought. There's no future. There's no past. There's no description. There's no judgment. The entire conceptual reality is merged in that ocean of being. That is what the teaching, just be, or be as you are, is pointing to. Just be that being. Or when they say focus on I am, it is the same as to be the I amness, which is. Do you see how in both of these practices, you are becoming aware of your true position, free from all conceptual knowledge? You are becoming aware of your true being, and everything that has existence that you take to be real, you are learning to see the illusory nature of. This is why I say, no matter how many things we talk about here, and even in this very conversation, we talked about so many different things in different ways. But when you just keep it very simple, whichever practice resonates more with you and calls more to you, and actually maybe both call to you and both are appropriate for you in different times. As long as you just keep it simple and stay consistent with the pointer will not fail you. Just by the practice of this pointer, all your questions will be answered, because the questions are there on a false premise of being a body, from that point of view, I have many questions and doubts. But that's if you feel an ounce of devotion to this teaching, just keep on returning to the pointer, forget those doubts. And as the premise upon which they arose starts to dissolve, they will also go. And that's what you may experience as, oh, I have greater clarity. I understand today what I didn't understand a year ago. Why? Because the layers and layers of impurities which were clouding your seeing, blocking clarity, they start to dissolve. You are learning to acknowledge that, or your being and your knowing yourself as prior to those conceptual filters. Keep on returning to yourself. That is what I call self-remembrance. It does not matter what's happening in your life. It does not matter what is not happening, what you have, what you don't have, what the theme of your life. Like, trust me, this stuff has a intelligence of its own and it moves on its own. It has actually nothing to do with you. More on that in a different conversation. But trust me, this stuff will keep flowing. Your life will continue to be what it is meant to be, your personal life. But you have to, through your personal life, discover what you are beyond the person. Otherwise, it's a wasted opportunity. If you continue to be just invested in mere personal life, then like you're just sealing your ticket to just, remain hooked into illusion. It's like remaining plugged into the illusion. Have no fear. There's nothing to fear. Again, that which fears is also just the mind, which you are not. The fear is not yours or you. You are only the witness of that fear's temporary passing. Be that. Don't submit to the fear. And your doubts, lastly, sorry, your doubts will literally stop holding any value for you because you are going to discover that which is undoubtable. Do you see that? As you are discovering that which is prior to concept, how can a doubt, which itself is a concept, question that? You are understanding, glimpsing, comprehending, acknowledging, noticing that which is there prior to the arising of a concept. So how can a concept mean anything to you? So like that's where the thoughts start losing their foundation upon which they can pull you in different ways and paint many realities that aren't there. When the experience of the person is less and less polluted by ego, it it becomes more and more pure, more and more authentic, more and more in service to the whole. So fear not, you have nothing to lose. From the teaching standpoint, just don't believe in your fears or doubts. Have utmost devotion to the teaching. That is the way. From a more personal standpoint, when we can compassionately speak with one another, I can tell you there's nothing for you to fear. The more you devote yourself into this teaching, the more it will dissolve everything that is dysfunctional about your life and just create a certain harmony and an understanding and a authenticity that is not only of service to the person but also to everything that the person touches. But there will be nothing to even claim all of that as my doing. That is where I say the more the impurities are cleansed, the more this humility arises in us, and we start to see that all of this physical and mental stuff performs through its own laws. It has nothing to do with me or mine. I can say right now that I'm speaking these words, but that's not really a true statement. There's no I here speaking these words. The words are just happening. Same in your experience. You can say I am listening, but that's actually a false statement, only relatively true. So by this conversation, I just wanted to really emphasize the importance of the practice, the simplicity of the practice, and how it works. So I hope that helped and made it a little clearer. Wonderful. I hope that that video brought you great value, that it brought you great clarity. As I said in the beginning of the video, on each of these pointers, awareness of sensation and awareness of awareness, I have mini courses that will guide you deeper into the practice and really help you integrate it into your life. So all you have to do is you go down to the description box below, join my free support group. When you join this support group, you'll get instant access to them. You'll also get access to a wonderful community of all of us on YouTube. We're all working towards these teachings, so you'll get to come meet with us and ask your questions, read through other people's posts. It's very valuable. Go in the description box right now, take a look, and I'll see you inside of the group.